We have a few things to cover today. We have a bill that we would like to have presented. Before we get started, please lead us in the pledge. Senator Nunn and Senator Tishner will lead us in prayer. To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
So much for the opportunity we have to come here and serve this great state.
Amen. Call the roll.
Senator Berg, Senator Boswell, Senator Higdon, Senator Nunn, Senator Richardson, Senator Smith, Senator Tishner, Senator Wilson, Senator Yates, Vice Chair Reed, Chair Deneen.
Here. We do have a quorum to conduct business. Please silence any of your cell phones that you may have with you, please. If anyone is interested in testifying today, please make sure you sign in. Please remember that there are no signs permitted in the committee room. We have a topic before us today that is a very important topic. It is a topic that has come up in years past. It's a topic that needs to be addressed. It's a topic that this bill attempts to do just that. There's nothing, as I told a gentleman earlier, there's nothing that brings people to the table like a bill being presented in committee. We've all received, I'm sure, several emails from interested parties related to this bill, and rightfully so. So we are glad to have that input, and I know the bill sponsor has taken into consideration those concerns, and I look forward to hearing his presentation today and discussing those potential changes. I will remind the committee that due to our own rule of not making any committee subs within a 24-hour period, we will be discussing those necessary changes. And at this time, this is a hearing on this bill. We may not be voting on this bill because I want this to be as transparent as possible for all parties involved. We want to make sure that our veterans are well taken care of. And I know you feel the same way, Senator. So without delay, you may begin. Please identify yourself and you may begin.
Thank you, Chair Deneen, members of our committee. I'm Senator David Yates. I represent Jefferson District 37 in the Senate. This is an important bill, and I've had the pleasure to talk to several of you about it. This is really about protecting veterans. That's what we're all here for, and I'm okay with slowing that down as long as it makes things as transparent and open as possible. In fact, some of the changes have been proposed. I believe that the way the draft writers have put into it would already be preempted, federally preempted, but it's really important to make sure that it's just clearly laid out. We have a situation, not just in Kentucky, but throughout the United States, where millions of dollars are being made off of veterans. It's been hit in 7 different states have filed legislation, but millions of dollars have been made for for-profit companies off of getting the benefits for veterans that they already deserve. The benefits that are already free to be able to apply and go through. And I think that veterans should be able to have the absolute choice of using who they want to use, but they should do so in an open and transparent manner. And so when we dive into it, and I got into this here in just a few horror stories, and once I get going, it's just over and over and over. It started with my grandfather working to get his benefits for Purple Heart that he was too proud to accept when he was a young man, and the type of vultures that went to approach made me sick. So there's some good actors in this. There absolutely are some good actors, and no one will disagree. There's been some very bad actors, but our failure to act, our failure to do nothing, our failure to protect our veterans from bad actors would be a terrible disservice. And so that's why I've slowed down. We've stopped under the leadership of our chairman, members of this committee. We wanted to make sure we heard from everyone, listened to any kind of problems, and we put in some level of guardrails, but not all, not a complete ban. We made sure that we were trying to make sure that if you were going to put yourself into this atmosphere, that if you're going to be a for-profit consultant and that you're going to come in and try to get the benefits, you have to disclose what you're doing. You have to put it in writing. Does that sound normal? Does that sound pretty basic? It should be in writing what those benefits that they're going to be paid. It should be very clearly articulated that you are not accredited. It should be that you are not affiliated with the VFW or the veterans or the fairs, that you are a for-profit company doing this. We want that open disclosure. Now, it troubles me that some people oppose that. It bothers me that they would not want us to put into writing, into legislation, that there be required that you'd have signatures from both parties. That it would be clearly laid out that you're not sponsored or affiliated with the U.S. Department of Veteran Affairs or the Kentucky Department of Veteran Affairs or any other federal veteran service organization. Because don't you think our veterans deserve to know that? They should be able to, they want to make sure that we know that that some of the products or services offered by third parties are not necessarily endorsed by the organizations. It's really basic things. And when we dive in, a lot of it's not being provided. And I won't attack every organization because there are some people that are doing good work. I think that majority of the time that it could be done for free into it. And if there is some people in this area, I can't see how they could be a opponent of legislation that we make sure that we clearly lay out to our veterans what they're signing, that we clearly lay out to our veterans that they're getting in bed with somebody who's for profit, that's not been endorsed, and that's not been accredited. And then we're clear laying out that we're going to limit how much money that they can take off the benefits on there. We put some guide rails because we've had some things that make your stomach turn. And so it started off looking at best practices. I went around and we looked at some 17 different states, 3 of them recently that had passed into it. And I thought, well, I know there is a heavy lobbying arm against us protecting our veterans. It looks like they've spent some $800,000 in some other areas in lobbying efforts to keep legislations like ours from moving forward to protect our veterans. And it made me laugh a little bit because that ain't going to float in Kentucky. I don't think we'll stand behind and let that happen. But I tried to have some type of balancing act. And I wanted to make sure that we put it, I think originally, that they could not have more than 5 times the benefits in which you would otherwise receive, the monthly benefits. That was in some other states. It came back listening to some of the organizations, and they thought it may be more reasonable to be with 3 times. Honestly, colleagues, if it's 3 times, if it was 5 times, that wasn't what I was worried about so much. What I was so worried about is making sure that we have some protections in place. Right now, it's the wild, wild west. They put it in an organization, they laid it out federally and said, it's illegal. You can't do it. But there's no teeth. So they left it up to the states to act. And Kentucky has not acted. And our failure to act has let a lot of veterans be vulnerable. So the reason I'm not going to put forward today, because I want to make sure we respect our rules of our committee, and I'm following the lead of our chair. And I want to make sure the amendment, which just makes some very small changes into it, but I think lays out the overall intent. It's done, and I think the way the best legislation should be done, with an open heart, open mind, listening, making sure that we get to hear from all parties and those affected, and we pass something that will help. So, Mr. Chair, that would be my slight, quick introduction, but I'd be happy to answer any questions anybody has on this committee.
Thank you. I want to speak on a couple of things that you have brought up, that some concerns that have been brought to my attention, and rightfully so. You know, when we have our VSOs out there that are providing these services for free to all of our veterans, and we have a federal regulation in there that simply states that, you know, you can't go to these consultants unless a claim has been denied. So that does put in statute and in our regs that we are following that federal guideline in those regs. One of the things that continued to come up in discussions was the issue of accreditation, so that those people involved in providing these services were trained and accredited to do so, to prevent and avoid a number of things. Bad claims being processed and then being denied and then having to be started all over again with another organization. So the accreditation side of those that are in the space that I believe is a valid concern. And I want you to, as we go forward here, I want you to work with our JECVO commanders and our VFW commanders to address those issues. I believe they are rightfully held. We want an even playing field out there. Even though one organization may be for profit and another organization is for free, the bottom line here is all of those organizations are serving our veterans, and we want a level playing field, and we want to be as transparent as possible, and we want our veterans to make informed decisions when it comes to who they choose to do business with. And I say this because, like you, I have experienced many organizations or people that have gone to both organizations, bad actors and our VSOs. And in both cases, we have veterans that are satisfied and we have veterans that are not. And when you have that disparity, we want to ensure that after that initial claim has been filed and it has been denied, that that veteran may seek assistance either with the VSO to correct those errors, or they may go to a lawyer, they may go to a consultant to assist them. But again, that's based on an informed decision by that veteran and their choice. But I do believe you're right, because just recently, I've had some folks that have been operating in this space as a consultant that have served not hundreds, but filed thousands of claims, thousands, and without accreditation. Now, I've heard from veterans that are absolutely thrilled with the service they were provided with. They earned those benefits, they got their benefits. And I have heard from veterans that said, I did not have a good experience. Both ways. And I've heard of the Attorney General being involved in closing those organizations that are operating on the fringe. So this is very important, that we put in some type of rules, regulations, and guardrails. Will this bill be 100% or address 100% of both parties' concerns? Probably not. I don't think any bill has ever been a perfect bill that has been filed here in Frankfort or in Congress for that matter. But I believe by taking a good, strong look at the changes that you will propose to this and being upfront and transparent with those organizations that are involved in this, and with our committee members, giving them time to digest those adjustments, strengthens the bill and really strengthens this process. I want to make it clear, we are not jamming anything through the process. We're not fast tracking anything. We are giving a bill that is needed and has been proposed in the past its rightful hearing. And that's what we're doing today. And I think that is our obligation to our constituents to do that. So at this time, if we have any questions for the bill sponsor, I would like to take some questions. So I believe we have any senators that have any questions before we take on other people to speak on the bill. Seeing none, thank you, Senator. We will call you back up here. Now, I will say this before you leave. One final comment. We're in a very short committee meeting, and this type of topic deserves its rightful time and its place. Not to rush through, but to do all we can to make it right and to get it right. So, after today's hearing, and you can get those committee subs put together, I believe it's important to get those out to the committee members as fast as possible to get them eyes on that and to share that with the commanders and those VSO members if they are interested in discussing adjustments with you in this time period before our next meeting. Based on the time we have today, we have about 12 minutes. We have 3 organizations signed up. We're talking about, I do want to give the senator time to come back after these people do and have the final say, and so we want to make this very quick. But I do want to remind those people that are speaking today, you'll be given an opportunity to expand on those questions if you have questions in our next committee meeting. All right? Thank you. Hang tight. We'll bring you right back up here before we close today.
Won't go far.
First up, we have I don't have my glasses.
Mark Christensen.
No, this one.
James Toby.
We have Representative of the VFW, James, and please forgive me if I mispronounce your last name.
Tabby,
Tabby.
like Debbie, but with a T.
Well, please forgive me, but my name is chopped all the time, so I completely understand.
15 years in the military, I've heard every way possible to say my last name.
Please identify yourself, and you may begin. I do want to remind you that 3 minutes here today, and we want to give the others opportunities
Won't even need
as well.
that. So, Chairman and members of the committee, first off, thank you for allowing me to come here to speak. My name is James Tabby. I'm a United States Navy and Kentucky National Guard veteran. I'm an active member of the VFW and here as the Department of Kentucky Legislative Chairman. I am also currently elected as a City of Covington Commissioner. I am here, and on top of that, I work a full-time job. But like many veterans in Kentucky, I balance the responsibilities while continuing to serve my community. I am here on behalf of the VFW, and we do not support the current version of the bill as it was wrote. The amendments, we like what we hear, but we'd like to see the writing of that. The bill at its current state violates the Code of Federal Regulations, which prohibits charging a veteran a fee for filing their initial claim. Some believe that reducing the fee from the 5 times the amount to 3 times is a compromise, but let me remind you, it is federally illegal to do that. If this body wants to support Kentucky veterans, it should reject the bill and pass legislation that mirrors federal law and actually enforces penalties that provide real protections for Kentucky veterans. I do find it interesting within the bill that it mentioned that the law applies to the law applies when accredited veterans or law firms are filing these claims on behalf of veterans, but it had no mention of the claim consultants that are acting illegally. I urge you, do not pass this bill without the amendment and ensures that veterans cannot be charged for their initial claims. Instead, pass legislation that aligns with 38 CFR 14636 and holds our bad actors accountable. Do not feed our claim sharks and protect those that protect us. Thank you.
Thank you for your testimony, and those issues, as we spoke
Sounds like
earlier,
it'll be addressed.
are being addressed, and we want to assure that those federal guidelines are being followed and that those initial claims are not where we're headed here. We're talking about those that have disputes, and so I'm encouraged by the senator's willingness to work with you and to make those adjustments that you have expressed.
I
in
greatly
both email.
appreciate that, and I appreciate everybody's time to hear this matter, because this is something that we've been fighting for over 4 years at the federal level, and we're pushing them to the state level as well. I'll be in D.C. in 2 weeks fighting this at the federal level again.
Well, thank you for all you do for our veterans, and thank you for coming here today.
Thank you for all you do as well. Thank you.
All right, next up.
Daryl Casey, Hutchinson,
Who is this? What does that say?
Veterans Guardian,
Okay.
Jack Voe.
All right.
Daryl Casey.
Mark Christensen. Just remind you that you have just a few minutes
Yes,
today.
sir.
And that
Mr. Chairman, thanks. I appreciate it. I'll be fast. My name is Mark Christensen. I'm the chief of staff at one of these private consulting companies named Veterans Guardian, based in Pinehurst, North Carolina. I'm a 25-year Army veteran, multiple combat deployments, and I work with a group of 200 people that are veterans, spouse of active duty, that help members, former members of the military with their claims. We appreciate certainly the intent of this bill. As one of the biggest and most ethical actors in the space, we ensure that veterans have options. Unfortunately, Kentucky has only 71 VSO representatives to service over 272,000 veterans in the state. Veterans need options. They need more options. Everybody recognizes that there's bad actors in every industry. We recognize that and have been pushing across the country and at the federal level for accreditation reform and to make sure that there's guardrails in place for private consulting companies to operate in each of the states. This bill has a great intent, but we think that HB 736 that was introduced yesterday also has some things that this one fails to address. And we would hope to see in the future that there is a fee cap with a dollar amount associated with it. We'd hope that the bill would include provisions such as not charging late fees, no interest on payment plans, things like that, simple things that can help protect veterans. And also there's some consideration for ethical business practices surrounding medical appointments and doctors and who veterans should be consulted with and who they should be referred to. I want to make clear, though, that while we sitting in this room may disagree on certain issues, I'm far from a claim shark, right? Veterans come to us knowing what the free options are, and if they don't, we let them know. They come to us well-informed, well-educated. 70% of our clients have tried the free services before, and they're looking for an alternative. They want other options. They need additional help. I also want to be clear that it's not my interpretation of federal law. It's not the VFW's interpretation of law that matters. Federal law is clear. 38 CFR is clear on who it pertains to and who it does not. And unfortunately, it doesn't cover what some would profess it does. That's why these guardrails are important. And so we appreciate the intent of this. We think it can do more. We hope it does more in the future while preserving choice and providing guardrails in the industry. So with that, Mr. Chairman, I appreciate it. Thank you for your time. And I'm
Thank
happy
you
to
for your
answer any
testimony.
questions.
Thank you for coming today. And we have one more. Daryl Casey from JECVO. Please make your way up forward. Please identify yourself for the record. And we have about 3 minutes.
Quick, fast, in a hurry. Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Good morning, you all. My name is Daryl Casey. Thank you all for letting me come today to speak. I am the legislative chairman for the Joint Executive Committee of Veteran Organizations, also known as JECVO. I want to preface this by saying I'm an enlisted guy for 33 years in the military. When they gave me this job, I told them, I said, look, I don't know how to talk fancy. I don't know how to speak in the political. I try to do my best to tamp it down, right? So I'm just going to lay it out for you the best I can. As you know, JECVO, we represent thousands of veterans in this state. We like to think that we speak for them when we come to these things as a voice for those veterans. I am also a member of the VFW here in town, and I'm one of those service officers. those veteran service officers who kind of is on the front line of this thing. You know, we have had lots of veterans since we opened a little office down here at the bottom of the hill come in, and we do our best to help them. And like I said, you know, we're a service organization. We don't charge, but we do our best to help them out. Every major VSO, veteran service organization, has accredited service officers, right? So if I have a question, I can go to my local or my state service officer and get the answers that I need to help me help that veteran. And that's what we want to do here at the end of the day, right? We're not, at the end of the day, when the dust settles and everybody's gone home, all we want to do is ensure that our veterans are getting the best care and help that they can, period, right? We're not against other organizations in the state doing this for a fee. Absolutely not. We're not saying, JECVO is not saying that we don't want anybody to do this and get paid. That is absolutely not what we're saying. We just want the playing field to be leveled.
Yes.
That's all we're asking. If a law firm or a lawyer or an attorney can only charge so much, then that should be the same for everybody else, right? I mean, because at the end of the day, who's the money coming from? It's coming from me. It's coming from those veterans on this Senate committee. It's coming from those of us who have been over there and done that job and came back broken, right? That's all we want to do is help the veteran, but we want it to be to where it's a level playing field. And that's really, at the end of the day, all we're asking. We absolutely think that this bill is vital to help the veterans in our community, right? Because there are bad actors who have, you know, and I'm sure some of you have seen the posts and the emails and the lawsuits that are going on all over this state and all over the nation. But you know, again, I guess that's really all I got to say.
All right. Thank you for your testimony. Thank you for making the trip here to express those concerns.
Yes, sir.
And we appreciate that. And I'm sure this bill sponsor will be glad to meet with you in the coming days and to give the appropriate attention to those concerns as
Yes.
well. So
Yes, sir. Thank you, guys. And thank
Thank
you all
you.
very
Thank
much
you very
for this.
much.
We appreciate it.
Just a little bit.
as Senator Yates is making his way to the table, we have one question here from Senator Reed.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Not necessarily a question, but it's really, I think we're all in agreement in here that things have to be done to make guardrails, and we're all looking to help veterans the best way possible. You know, myself having served and, you know, my brothers, we do not want to get rid of any options, really. You know, we have different levels of requirements of care and issues that have come from, you know, going to the free version versus the paid version. It's almost like, you know, do I want a public defender or do I want to hire the hammer, so to speak? You know, maybe not. Sorry, I know you're in the same business, but you know, we kind of, you know, we want to be able to choose. As veterans, we fought for freedom and liberty, and you know, we want to be able to choose for ourselves. And I think we all need to get together on this in the next couple days, or you know, when we come back again to meet, that we all come back to the table with something everyone agrees with and everyone's good with. I think that'll help veterans the most. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Senator. David, you have about 1 minute to close us out today, and we look forward to you coming back next meeting and working with some of these.
Want to finish just by saying
may
thank
have
you
to
to
wait.
each of you. And when after I attacked the sharks on here, what's going on, and there are, and we've seen the lawsuits, we've seen some of it. I do appreciate the individuals willing to come here and testify and talk about it, because there are good actors in this sphere, and it sounds like they'd be supportive on the face of this bill, because it does put the guide rails in place that people can't be abused. Now, when people start talking, well, this might affect my pocketbook, this might affect this, if they start coming down the right, well, ultimately, our duty in here is to protect our veterans, and that's for enforcement, and that's what I'll do. Thank you.
Thank you, folks. Thank you, committee members, for your patience today and your attention. Thank you to those that have testified today. We look forward to bringing this issue back up at our next meeting. I will announce, based on discussions with the senator here, if we will need additional time for others to speak. So be prepared. We may meet at 8 o'clock next week to tackle this issue because I believe we may have some other bills coming our way that address. So I want to give those folks the time to do so as well. And please, thank you, Senator Higdon. And that was not, they're not forgotten. It was just on the last thing to do. So before we leave today, before I drop this gavel, I want to remind everybody that Military Kids Day is coming up. And we want to encourage your participation. So please show these kids and their families the respect that they deserve. Help them learn about the legislative process. And it is next Tuesday. So we look forward to that day. We have 155 folks signed up. That's kids, and then their parents and those folks bringing them. So what a wonderful day to celebrate veterans. At this time, if there's no further questions or discussion, the meeting is adjourned. What's that?
A policy happy hour instead.
Yeah, absolutely. And David lives